Okay guys, welcome to another episode of Rotten Reviews. Today I'm going to look at the 2009 movie Gamer with Gerard Butler, and it has a 30% on the tomato meter and a 39% on the audience score. Well, what can I say except that I think that this movie deserves to be rotten. It didn't offend me, but it is a deliberate attempt to insult what is known as gamer culture. It's not accurate, but it is I don't know, it's an exaggerated perspective on gamer culture. And in that, I mean, it portrays gamers as misogynistic, trash talking 12-year-olds with foul mouths. And it actually has adult characters in the movie talking like foul-mouthed 12-year-olds in the middle of an intense Call of Duty battle when their parents aren't in the room to hear them. And that's the way it comes across. It also touches on things like Second Life and The Sims and all the foul parts of that. There's a heavy dose of misogyny, a heavy dose of just over-the-top, sexual fetish references. And it could largely be taken as a big, if there's a message, it's a message that whoever made this doesn't really like gamer culture too much. Again, I'm saying gamer culture, and I know people will take that the wrong way, but this is like the stereotype that maybe a 60-year-old that's more conservative and doesn't know anything about video games, they might think that this is an accurate representation of what gamers in general are like. But let's go into the rotten reviews. I don't think that it deserves to be rotten for that. I think it deserves to be rotten because just the heavy use of shaky cam and the lazy way the action sequences are done. It comes across less as an homage to video game action than to just be a lazy way of trying to get you to feel that it's got some kind of action. It's just like a shaky cam mess. It reminds me of somewhat of a bad Transformers scene. Not as bad as that where the camera is shifting around so much you can't see anything, but somebody that's trying to make what would otherwise be very boring set pieces look exciting by causing a lot of disturbance in the camera movement. It's certainly not Michael Bay, but it's like Michael Bay Jr. in a lot of ways. The logic in it is completely ridiculous. If you think about it for more than 5 minutes, a lot of the plot breaks down and it doesn't add up. And I think that's why it deserves to be rotten, not because it offends me in some way as somebody that does like video games. But let's get into it. I see a 1-star review right off the bat, September 30th, 2019. What's saying very short and sweet, a continuous sequence of senseless shootings. Yeah, a lot of the action is senseless. The movie makes attempts to create tension that you're supposed to care about the cardboard characters that are splattered by gunfire, but you don't care. They don't seem to have a point to them because, again, they're cardboard characters. If I had to rate this with a star, I would say 1.5 stars. It won't reach 2 stars for me. Although I considered the actual premise to be interesting, as soon as I saw how cheap and lazily done the action was, I immediately knew, that it wasn't going to be good. It did keep me watching until the end just to see how crazy they were going to make the video game culture portrayals, like, their version of Second Life and how disgusting it is. I just wanted to see how far they would take it. And, there is one surprising thing in the movie to me. Towards the very end, there's a scene in which the villain, played by Michael C. Hall, he does like a puppet master type dance with his minions. That's fantastic. It's original. And if there had been more of that in the movie, this would have been something special. But it's just like that small gem at the very end that isn't enough to carry the rest of the movie. The rest of the movie is complete nonsense. Let's continue on. 3 stars. Gerard Butler and Terry Crews are really good in this movie. If you like sci-fi and video games, then you'll probably be into this one. Really good action scenes that are tense in a very different way. No, I disagree. There's nothing tense about them. The action scenes are very dull if you actually think about for more than 10 seconds what's really happening on screen. The only reason it might seem a little bit interesting is just all the shaky cam and the cuts from one place to the other. It's a very dull, really. 5 stars. Gaming. Oh yeah, I love gaming. Yeah, game all the time. Yeah, I love gaming. Yeah, I guess that's kind of a sarcastic. I'm reading into this, but it seems like that's what somebody is trying to tell us, that they're just kind of insulted by the portrayal of gamers. 3 stars. Gamer is a very interesting movie to watch and look back on 10 years later. While it struggles at telling its story clearly throughout the film, it flourishes early on and makes you think about what's happening and the practicality of it all. Gamer has subtle metaphors and imagery sprinkled in the film to get its point across. However, its crudeness is what really drives this film. Whether it was on purpose to show how we are desensitized, doing things through a different form of ourselves, no, I think they're like not giving the film credit. It's not like subtly putting messages about gaming culture into it. No, it's just like right in your face, making a caricature of the worst parts of it. Nothing subtle about it. 4 stars. What I would picture if someone did Molly and made a movie about a dystopian future. A crazy thrill ride that holds nothing back, and I mean nothing. Some great stuff here, would recommend to the brave. I think it's recommended that somebody watch this as what Hollywood might think about gamers. If this is what they think about them, then wow, it's pretty crazy. 2 stars. It was an all right late night movie with nothing to watch. Very loose story that didn't tie together very well. Left way too much open. Didn't round out well enough. I don't know if I agree or not. I don't know what to make of that review. Too vague. 3 stars. I expected a lot less from this film. Although it is marred by constant shots of pornography and flashes from light to dark that are bound to cause seizures, even in people without epilepsy, the film itself was surprisingly good. Gerard Butler almost always appears like a king among peons, and this is definitely the case with this film. There are some seriously artistic sections of the movie, such as the unexpected dance routine, and some interesting ideas regarding giving up your agency to someone. He's touching on that dance routine. At the very end I spoke of, the Puppet Master dance. That was the only unique thing in here, in my opinion. 1 star. I just didn't like the movie. The premise seemed really cool, but the execution of it wasn't very good. I'll agree with that. 1.5 stars. Is it a movie or just one long cutscene? Unlike actual gaming experiences, the movie never tries to invite you into its world, to take part in its adventure, to assume some sort of agentive role. Rather, the action plays out before you. This is at one point an actual plot point, the player giving up control to let his character play the game on his own, allowing you to enjoy its brutality as if from a level removed, as if you aren't part and parcel with this world, passively buoying up its cruelty. I guess what they're trying to refer to is one plot point in the movie is that some part the person that's controlling Gerard Butler's character in the game decides to let Gerard Butler take control of his own actions because, according to Gerard Butler's character, he can do this better than his, puppet master can. It's kind of nonsensical. 5 stars. I don't get how this movie, which everyone I know who's seen it loves, has such a low audience score, when movies like Ready Player One, which is a similar concept but absolute garbage, has such a high score. Do yourself a favor and check this movie out. I'll disagree with that. What this comes across to me is somebody that likes this better than Ready Player One because they like all the cursing and crazy over-the-top foul language that 12-year-old boys use online, and some 12-year-old girls. They find that so realistic and exciting, and I don't. I just find it a bad caricature of gaming in general. And maybe they don't like Ready Player One because it's too, I don't know, PG and not NC-17 or R-rated like this. So that's my opinion. And I haven't seen Ready Player One. So after I see it, maybe I will feel like doing a rotten review. But to me, that movie comes across as, from what I've seen of the trailers and whatnot, that it would be boring to me. This also was boring to me, even with all the kids calling each other nasty names and whatnot. 2 stars. The movie as a whole is very unoriginal. The plot plays out predictably with no consequences at the end, leaving a protagonist with very little character development. There were interesting parts in the movie, such as the hierarchy of the inmates in the Slayers game. However, the movie was too concerned with over-edited action scenes to develop. Despite a lackluster script and subpar editing, the movie wasn't trying to be an Academy Award winner. Okay, so they're excusing the movie for its subpar action scenes, which is what I said. The action scenes aren't anything. It's just all done with camera angles. Very cheap, very lazy. 3.5 stars. A very fun take on the gaming society. Had a very exquisite and yet one-of-a-kind concept. Lots of great actors and much-needed action, including violence. Did have a very interesting take on a community full of horny bystanders, but altogether delivered a very elaborate and fun movie regarding video games. Um, it has a message that people playing the video games are like 400-pound, morbidly obese, sweaty, and disgusting individuals sitting in cheap, rickety chairs in a dark room that's all strewn with garbage, and they're basically stroking themselves off in a porno way as they make hot girls dance around for them. And that's like summing up the attitude of this movie. And I don't find it fascinating. I just find it like, it doesn't insult me, but I can see how it's meant as an insult to gamers in general. 3 stars. Gamer was solid for the first hour, then the final act moved way too fast. It's your typical rich controlling the poor movie, but I thought it was good, save the final act. There was kind of an element of the rich. The kid that was controlling the central character of the movie was a rich kid surrounded by walls of technology, and surrounded by other rich kids that would chat with him, and they would talk like nasty 12-year-olds. It wasn't anything fresh. It was, I don't know if it was, pushing the rich versus the poor. It was just, to me, it was pushing just how vulgar and disgusting that the makers of the movie considered gamers to be. 2 stars. Reminiscent of The Running Man, in which the contestants are turned into the characters controlled by the gamers themselves. The prisoners are given a chance to either become one of the characters and beat the game of passing 28 wins granted for their freedom, or serve out their entire sentence. Well, in the movie, as is would be in the real world, nobody's going to make it to 28. That's the funny part. If you should make it to 27 kills, guaranteed they'll make sure you don't. They'll make sure that on your 28th you don't get to the 28th. Your head will get blown off first. That's similar to The Running Man in that it's revealed to be a rigged game, but I don't think it works as a very good plot device in this movie, because in The Running Man they kind of teased it and it was a reveal that the game was rigged. But in this it's not. It's kind of like shown to you in early on clues that the game is rigged, and this is a one-way ticket, so you're volunteering to be part of this game, but you're not getting out alive. So it didn't work as a big reveal. That's where it differs from The Running Man. The Running Man was boring to me, but at least, it tried to make that a big reveal that the game was rigged. This doesn't really try that hard. 4.5 stars. Kind of like an updated Running Man with great stunts, action, and SFX, telling a story that should make any modern internet user at least a little squirmy. The kind of sci-fi that uses fantastical storytelling to force one to re-examine their own reality. Well, again, I think that's part of the insult of the movie. This reviewer kind of agrees with it, that this is what gaming is. I disagree. Yes, this is the way 12-year-olds talk and act when they're left alone in their rooms by their parents that aren't there. But, this is a stereotype for a reason. This does exist, but this is not the overall bulk of gamers. I would say it's like less than 5% in real numbers. 2.5 stars. A mediocre attempt at a mind control perverted future film, all been done before in The Matrix, Avatar, and The Purge. Butler, Cable, is being controlled in a shoot-'em-up real-life game and has to escape and kill his captor, game creator Dexter. Pretty much everyone is wasted, underused. Sedgwick, Lerman, Lohman, Cruz, Ludacris, Valletta, Leguizamo, David, not all crap, but not much better than that. I disagree. All the characters they put in there, they're just there to get paychecks. I don't think they tried to use them. I don't think they were underused. The script just could have worked with anybody of any name, any actor. I think that everybody there just signed on to this movie for a paycheck. I don't think they were underused. Nobody, whoever wrote this had no intention of using them. They were just supposed to be cardboard cutout characters. When you say underused, it almost means like the director had intentions for them to do something meaningful, but it didn't come across that way. I disagree. I think he never, whoever the director was, one or two of them, they never had any intention to put these characters to real use. Half a star. Watch this movie on YouTube and it sucks. Of course, Michael C. Hall and Gerard Butler are good-looking guys. I don't know about good looking, but I think actually Michael C. Hall did a good job playing a villain. He played a villain that wasn't afraid to tell you that he was a villain. He wasn't subtle about it. He was just a villain. But again, a video game style villain. 1 star, unbelievably terrible, garbage. I think directors are really crazy. Looked like they made this movie unbelievably disgusting, gross, and annoying. So lots of people disliked it. Actors were all bad. Boring story, and it was like The Matrix. 3D effects were terrible too. Why Lionsgate said okay to make a really bad 3D movie? I wasted 95 minutes today and I'll sell this garbage Blu-ray disc. I would agree with that. There's no reason to buy this on Blu-ray. That's, you know, you made a big mistake there. Sell it or trade it to somebody that doesn't know any better. 3 stars, plot is subpar, but it's got some shock value. I mainly enjoyed it because I love every one of the actors. I disagree on the shock value. The only thing that was shocking is that the writers, whoever wrote the script, expected us to understand how the main character, he needed to put fuel in a Humvee. He couldn't carry the fuel there because he didn't have a container, so he chose to drink the fuel, the gasoline, I'm assuming it's gasoline, and then carry it to the Humvee inside his body and then regurgitate it or throw it up into the gas tank. Yeah, that's the logic of this movie. That's what I found, you know, shock value. The only shock value there is that somebody put that in as believable. 1 star. Any enjoyable scene in this movie is compromised by eye gouging, flash editing, and perverse sexual imagery. Yeah, there's a lot of perverted sexual imagery, as much as they can get away with and keep the rating. They're trying to say that this is where the natural evolution of things go when people play games like Second Life. They all degenerate into these disgusting, perverted characters, and they're just willing to, you know, abuse the hell out of each other sexually. That's a pretty bad view of people that play games. 5 stars. All people who are rating this as bad are only stating their opinion. I personally liked it, and cliches are not bad because they are tried and tested. A good cliche is better than an original act. You go far outside the box, you are bound to fail. In my opinion, great movie with a boring twist. I don't know what movie he's watching, but he thinks he's watching an episode, one of these boring Bourne Identity movies. And I say boring because the first Bourne Identity, okay, fine, it was refreshing. They've degenerated into a bore fest. I couldn't sit through one of those Bourne Identity sequels if you paid me, probably. 1.5 stars. Another fine example of how not to do a video game-based movie. Look at Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That is a film in which it knows of what it's supposed to be, and they have fun with it. Here it's kind of focusing on what it is, then it doesn't. Flashy, fatty, sexy, a derpy derp, a derpity dippity derpy dumb. Oh, for God's sake, even Michael C. Hall doesn't even look like he cares for the role he plays in this film, just mailing it in. I'll agree. Michael C. Hall is really trying to play a villain. And yeah, if you're not used to seeing him as a villain, it comes across as he's like not being genuine. But that's just because you haven't seen him play a villain like that before. I think he did a good job. 1 star. Did they really have a script for this busy, overly confusing mess? Yeah, I think they did. That's what makes it worse. 0.5 star. The shaky cam is 10 times as bad as the Bourne films, and it's nauseating. It made me want to puke, and the film was so bad and disgusting and visually vulgar that I actually may have. Well, certainly the main character puked gasoline into the tank of a Humvee. It worked for him. 3 stars. Like the concepts used, but the pacing and scripting is a letdown. The future looks fun. 2.5 stars, an all over the place action film with a crap ton of shaky cam that will give you a headache, but I dug the story and development of it, just kind of average, slightly below average. 3.5 stars. Some brilliant acting here to accompany a brilliant concept. It's just a letdown by the storytelling and characterization. Brilliant acting? Maybe like a few minutes of Michael C. Hall. Everything else, no. I don't know what you're watching. 4.5 stars. It's really a good movie. I really enjoyed watching it. Okay, great. 1.5 stars, Spanish. 3 stars, a good movie that is quite underrated in my opinion. The plot was great and the action scenes were well done. This is a movie that is popcorn entertainment. This is far from a great movie. It's a mindless piece of entertainment. Grade B, 3 stars. You just described 2 stars. I say it's 2 stars. 1 star. Just like watching somebody else play a mindless video game, minus the positional funny comments. Yeah. 2.5 stars. This total ad fest, ADD fest, is disgustingly hyper-violent and unburdened by things like memorable set pieces or a moral compass of any kind. It gets 2.5 stars only for the action sequences. While they were, as I said earlier, far too violent, they were still exciting. No, I disagree. Exciting only if you like shaky cam, and that's supposed to make up for how boring it is. 2 stars. Interesting idea squandered in this below average action romp. I agree. 0.5 star. Didn't even make it 45 minutes in. Cast doesn't give a single F, and the whole movie feels like a joke. Some of the worst camera handling to hit the action genre. Think the Bourne movies, but if a 14-year-old was directing. Feels more like a weekend adventure in Windows Movie Maker than an actual theatrical release film. Yeah, it's the action scenes. Shaky cam, but shaky cam done by somebody that just discovered it. 4.5 stars. This movie was effing amazing. F all you Fs who think otherwise. America. That could be sarcastic. Maybe they were playing a role in this movie. They thought they were in the movie. 4 stars. I just saw this movie. Despite the bad ratings it received, I was pleasantly surprised and really enjoyed it. I think it was made a couple of years too soon, 2009. I feel that it is much more relatable to present day 2014. See it if you haven't already. Yeah, I think this is somebody that's way deep into Call of Duty and the other endless first-person shooters in which people endlessly curse and call each other F-bombs. It's very repetitive, but I guess if you're into that, this is exciting. 2.5 stars. The visual and action work. It's the plot, dialogue, and characters that don't. A visual ride with nothing between the ears that should have worked. 2.5 stars. 2 stars for Michael C. Hall simply being casted. 0.5 star for concept. 0 stars for everything else. I don't think you should add up stars like that. I say you go with the lowest star, and in which case it would be 2 stars. 0.5 star. Stupid, just terrible. I absolutely hate it. 1 star. No character development, strangely low amounts of screen time for major characters, and negative stereotypes everywhere. Despite being a movie for gamers, the research seems to have just been a day of Call of Duty and hearing about Second Life from a stereotypical Call of Duty player. Gamer fails to deliver pretty much everywhere. Save your time and your money. Keep away. Yeah, they definitely didn't consult anybody that plays these type of games. They didn't consult any Call of Duty players. They didn't consult any Second Life players. They didn't consult anybody. Maybe they saw some footage of a couple of 12-year-olds playing a game of some type, and then they based this movie on their first impression. That would be plausible. 1 star. This movie is actually terrible. Gerard Butler would have ruined this if it wasn't already too vapid. I agree. Gerard Butler, he chose this probably. It's just the paycheck. He had to know it's no good, but he needed the paycheck for whatever reason. We'll find out someday. 5 stars. It was just what I expected since it was from the makers of the Crank series. Tons of badass action, and it is so over the top and ridiculous you can't help but just sit back and enjoy, LOL. And Gerard Butler does make a really good action hero. Yeah, well, if the people that made Crank made this, they forgot to take their own advice and keep the thing moving along at a high pace, because this bogs down with some slow ass stuff in some weird locales and to make weird points about gamers, I guess. It doesn't even stay in the action. The action, as bad as it is, isn't most of the film. 1 star. For a high concept action thriller, for this to be effective, it needs 1, impressive visuals, 2, some crazy cool futuristic touches, and 3, some smart social commentary. Gamer has none of these. At the end, villain Michael C. Hall lip sync Sammy Davis Jr.'s I've Got You Under My Skin. I wish the rest of the film had that level of campiness. It's just awful. Agree 100%. If they had done what they did with him at the end in that scene with the rest of the movie, this would have been quite the spectacle to behold. We wouldn't be doing a rotten review on it. At least I don't think so. 5 stars. Are you a plebeian or what? Not sure what you mean. 3 stars. I was hoping for better. So was I. 1.5 stars. Butler cashes out in this film made for gamers who foamed over 300. You know, that could be true. Maybe they were trying to market this to the same people that really watched the movie 300 like 300 times. I knew some of those people. Some of those people were older than me. They were in their 40s, and they watched 300 once per week. I thought it was good, but it wasn't all that. Maybe this was marketed to them, but I don't know. 1 star. Completely tasteless and senseless. It's like a collision of a modern warfare game with a Nicki Minaj music video on crack, and not in a good way. 0.5 star. An awful, horribly directed thriller with no thrills or emotional attachment to be had whatsoever. Gamer is one of the worst movies ever made, and not even Michael C. Hall can save this terrible and incoherent mess. 3 stars. Everything is good with Gerard Butler. Okay, if you have at least 3 posters of him in your bedroom, then I believe you and I can forgive you for this. 5 stars. I know what you're thinking, and yes, I don't even understand why this film was made and who it was for, but sometimes I get vibes from awful films that are so amazing in graphics and action I just can't help but enjoy myself, such as Sucker Punch, Blood the Last Vampire, etc. Kind of like the movies So Bad They Are Good. I disagree. This is not a movie that's so bad it's good. There's nothing laugh out loud funny. This isn't M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, where I burst into laughter many times. No, this is just dull and an obvious insult to gamers. Again, I don't find it offensive to me because I don't fit that profile, but I see it for what it is. Apparently, a lot of other people do. 39% audience score. I would agree with this. I don't think it's going to go up or down in the future. I think it's going to stay here because already I think most people have forgotten about this movie. So it was a paycheck. It employed people. Everybody in production got a paycheck or quite a few out of it. So in that regard, it deserves 2 stars. And that's my final say. I will see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.